back with Raja Vidya, the King of Knowledge, by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, page number 27. Although all beings in the universe are resting in Krishna's energy, still they are not in Him. Krishna is maintaining all living entities, and His energy is all-pervading, yet He is elsewhere. This is Krishna's inconceivable mystic power. He is everywhere, yet He is aloof from everything. We can perceive His energy, but we cannot see Him because He cannot be seen with material eyes. However, when we develop our spiritual qualities, we sanctify our senses so that even within this energy, we can see Him. Electricity, for instance, is everywhere, and an electrician is capable of utilizing it. Similarly, the energy of the Supreme Lord is everywhere, and when we become transcendentally situated, we can see God eye to eye everywhere. That spiritualization of the senses is possible through devotional service and love of God. The Lord is all-pervading, all over the universe, and is within the soul, the heart, water, air, everywhere. Thus, if we make an image of God in anything, clay, stone, wood, or whatever, it should not be considered to be just a doll. That is also God. If we have sufficient devotion, the image will also speak to us. God is everywhere impersonally. Maya tatam idam sarvam. But if we make His personal form from anything, if we create an image of God within ourselves, He will be present personally for us. In the Shastras, there are 8 kinds of images recommended, and any kind of image can be worshipped, because God is everywhere. One may protest and ask, why should God be worshipped in images and not in His original spiritual form? The answer is that we cannot see God immediately in His spiritual form. With our material eyes, we can only see stone, earth, wood, something tangible. Therefore, Krishna comes as Archa Vigraha, a form conveniently presented by the Supreme Lord in order for us to see Him. The result is that if we concentrate upon the image and make offerings with love and devotion, Krishna will respond through the image. There are many instances of this happening. In India, there is one temple called Sakshi Gopal. Krishna is often called Gopal. The Gopala Murti, or the statue, was at one time located in a temple in Vrindavan. Once, 2 brahmanas, one old and one young, went to visit Vrindavan on pilgrimage. It was a long trip, and in those days there were no railways, so travelers underwent many hardships. The old man was much obliged to the youth for helping him on the journey, and upon arriving in Vrindavan, he said to him, "My dear boy, you have rendered me so much service, and I am much obliged to you. I would like very much to return that service and give you some reward." "My dear sir," the youth said, "you are an old man just like my father. It is my duty to serve you. I don't require any reward." "No, I'm obliged to you and I must reward you," the old man insisted. He then promised to give the young man his young daughter in marriage. The old man was a very rich man, and the youth, although a learned Brahmana, was very poor. Considering this, the youth said, "Don't promise this, for your family will never agree. I'm such a poor man, and you are aristocratic, so this marriage will not take place. Don't promise this way before the deity." The conversation was taking place in the temple before the deity of Gopal Krishna, and the young man was anxious not to offend the deity. However, despite the youth's pleas, the old man insisted on the marriage. After staying in Vrindavan for some time, they finally returned home, and the old man informed his eldest son that his younger sister was to be married to the poor Brahmana youth. The eldest son became very angry. "Oh, how have you selected the pauper as husband for my sister? This cannot be." The old man's wife also came to him and said, "If you marry our daughter to that boy, I shall commit suicide." The old man was perplexed. After some time, the Brahmana youth became very anxious. "He has promised to marry his daughter to me, and he made that promise before the deity. Now he's not coming to fulfill it." He then went to see the old man to remind him of his promise. "You promised before Lord Krishna," the youth said. "Are you not fulfilling that promise? How is that?" The old man was silent. He began praying to Krishna, for he was perplexed. He didn't want to marry his daughter to the youth and cause such great trouble within his family. In the meantime, the elder son came out and began to accuse the Brahmana youth. "You have plundered my father in the place of pilgrimage. You gave him some intoxicant and took all his money, and now you are saying that he has promised to offer you my youngest sister? You rascal!" In this way there was much noise, and people began to gather. The youth could understand that the old man was still agreeable, but that the family was making it difficult for him. People began to gather about because of the noise which the elder son was raising. And the Brahmana youth began to exclaim to them that the old man made this promise before the deities, but that he could not fulfill it because the family was objecting. The eldest son, who was an atheist, suddenly interrupted the youth and said, "You say that the Lord was witnessing? Well, if he comes and bears witness to this promise of my father's, you can have my sister in marriage." The youth replied, "Yes, I shall ask Krishna to come as a witness." He was confident that God would come. An agreement was then made before everyone that the girl would be given in marriage if Krishna came from Vrindavan as a witness to the old man's promise. The Brahmana youth returned to Vrindavan and began to pray to Gopal Krishna. "Dear Lord, you must come with me." He was such a staunch devotee that he spoke to Krishna just as one would speak to a friend. He was not thinking that the Gopala was a mere statue or image, but he considered him to be God himself. Suddenly, the deity spoke to him. "How do you think that I can go with you? I am statue. I can't go anywhere." "Well, if a statue can speak, he can also walk," the boy replied. "All right then," the deity said finally. "I shall go with you, but on one condition. In no case shall you look back to see me. I will follow you, and you will know that I'm following by the jingle of my leg bangles," like ankle bells. The youth agreed, and in this way they left Vrindavan to go to the other town. When the trip was nearly over, just as they were about to enter his home village, The youth could no longer hear the sound of the bangles, and he began to fear. Oh, where is Krishna? Unable to contain himself any longer, he looked back. He saw the statue standing still. Because he looked back, it would go no further. He immediately ran into the town and told the people to come out and see Krishna, who had come as a witness. Everyone was astounded that such a large statue had come from such a distance, and they built a temple on the spot in honor of the deity. And today people are still worshipping Sakshi Gopal, the Lord, as a witness. We should therefore conclude that because God is everywhere, He is also in His statue, in the image made of Him. If Krishna is everywhere, as even the impersonalists admit, then why isn't He in His image? Whether an image or statue speaks to us or not is dependent on the degree of our devotion. But if we choose to see the image merely as a piece of wood or stone, Krishna will always remain wood or stone for us. Krishna is everywhere, but as we advance in spiritual consciousness, we can begin to see Him as He is. If we put a letter into a mailbox, it will go to its destination because the mailbox is authorized. Similarly, if we worship an authorized image of God, our faith will have some effect. If we are prepared to follow the various rules and regulations, that is to say, if we become qualified, it is possible to see God anywhere and everywhere. When a devotee is present, Krishna, by his omnipresent energies, will manifest himself anywhere and everywhere. But when his devotee is not there, he will not do this. There are many instances of this. Prahlad Maharaj saw Krishna in a pillar. There are many other examples. Krishna is there. All that is required is our qualification to see Him. Krishna himself gave an example of his omnipresence in this way. Yatha kasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthanityu. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. Unquote Bhagavad Gita 9.6. Everyone knows that the wind blows within space, and on earth it is blowing everywhere. There's no place where there's no air or wind. If we wish to drive out air, we have to create a vacuum artificially by some machine. Just as the air is blowing everywhere in space, so everything is resting within Krishna. If this is the case, when the material creation is dissolved, where does it go? Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpadao visrijam yaham. Quote, O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. Unquote Bhagavad Gita 9.7. Krishna sets his nature, Prakriti, into motion, as one may wind up a clock, and when nature unwinds, it is absorbed into the Lord. The spiritual creation, however, is not like this, for it is permanent. In the material creation, everything is temporary. Just as our bodies are developing due to the spiritual spark that is within. The whole creation is coming into being, developing, and passing out of being due to the Spirit of the Lord, which is within it. Just as our spirit is present within the body, the Lord is present within the universe as Paramatma. Due to the presence of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the material creation exists just as, due to our presence, our bodies are existing. Sometimes Krishna manifests the material creation, and sometimes he does not. In all cases, its existence is due to his presence. Jai, we have completed 3rd chapter of this beautiful book, and tomorrow we shall continue with the 4th chapter titled Knowledge by the Way of the Mahatmas, Great Souls. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and the link to this book is in the description. Let's read along, and we shall see you next time. Hare Krishna.